Thursday, August 28th at 1 p.m. Welcome, everyone. We respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the unceded traditional territory of the Sicamous. Recommendation that the committee of the whole meeting agenda for August 28th, 2024 be approved as circulated. Councillor McCabe, Councillor Evans, all in favor. Thank you. Recommendation that the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held on August the 14th, 2024 be adopted. So Rich, Councillor Bushell, all in favor. Thank you. And we're going to go into delegations, and these will be online. Timber harvesting and licensing, Alicia Law, planning Forester, BC timber sales, presentation on the bridge on the Skyline Forest Service, the activation and transfers on ongoing forest activities relevant to the District of Sicamous. All right, you guys can take it away. Welcome.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear us?
You're going to have to speak up or turn up volume, please.
Is there any buttons on this thing?
Oh, down here.
Is that better?
A little bit.
Okay, I'll try to talk loud.
Okay, that sounds good. And lean towards the mic. Perfect.
I wonder if it's actually going through your computer now, like the microphone thing.
Just yell.
Can you guys see my presentation?
No, have you selected share screen?
Very echoey.
There we go.
We can't hear you right now. If you are speaking. There we
Can you
go.
hear? Okay, sorry. There was questions about the Skyline Bridge, reasons for deactivating forestry roads and possibly transferring like a BCTS road and some activity updates from our end. So I'm Felicia, the planning forester. I have Jennifer Wright, a woodland supervisor with me here as well. Hello. And Brad Wilgram, the engineering officer.
Hello.
And Matt McCluskey, the engineering technician.
Hi.
Brad, did you want to talk about this stuff?
Sure, yeah. So if anytime anybody has any questions, just interrupt me. I'll just talk kind of very broadly about this crossing, past, present, and future. And then, yeah, feel free to ask any questions you have or share your concerns, and I'll do my best. So this crossing site, bit of a historic crossing site. There's been multiple crossings there and pulled out for various reasons. My understanding is the first crossing was installed for access to the research forest. That was deemed not a very good crossing. It was made with log stringers, kind of an unknown load rating. So we removed that, and there was a design for a new installation, which you can see in that photo, around 2010. So that was installed on different foundation. So it spanned the stream larger, just better environmentally, and a better design bridge. When the operational need for that one was no more, we pulled that one out, and then it sat with no structure on it until this summer, of course, when the Mara Mountain fire took off. And then we or the government as a whole, not BC Timber Sales, but it is a BC Timber Sales road. So the engineering branch and wildfire service installed this bridge. So it's back in, basically the same design in the second iteration of it. Kind of the broad stats on it, it's rated to 91 tons. So it's an L100, we call it. It's a fully functioning forestry bridge used for hauling and mobilizing equipment. It has a shorter than usual time lifespan, so 1 to 3 years, and that's just limited by the design itself. And yeah, so it was installed by engineering branch, signed off by their engineering group leader on an emergency basis. And now we're looking at potential options for beyond the bridge and what to do with it. So yeah, I guess, do you guys have any questions or concerns on that?
Council, any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair. So after you're satisfied that you have the fire out and everything, are your plans to pull it out? I couldn't hear you fully there. Is your plans to pull it out, or can we figure out if it could be transferred to the snowmobile club, or how could we look at trying to keep that in? Because it's a very valuable piece of bridge, infrastructure that accesses that side of the mountain, which we've obviously seen. We've had to put it back in a couple times before. So I just wondered what your thoughts are.
Yeah, for sure. I think at this stage, they'll have to conduct rehab on the fire and need access beyond that. So for now, it's going to stay. Long-term plans, we can for sure consider kind of recreational access, but there's a lot of considerations for the bridge staying. Other uses for that structure, safety, the short lifespan of it. So it is designed for a maximum of 3 years. So without changing anything, it would have to be pulled then. That's not to say that we would never put something back in or extend the lifespan. But right now we're just kind of gathering information, seeing who needs it, who wants it, where else we could use that resource. So yeah, for now, I don't really have a good answer for you, except that it's not coming out right away and it's not going to stay forever. Somewhere in the middle, and lots of information to consider before we make that decision.
Okay, thank you. And then one other question. There was a gate just on the skyline where the 2 Mile Creek comes down, and where the fire started. There was years ago, there was a big gate in that position, and they had closed it for some time, for years. Is that gate still there? Or would you want to, if you keep this bridge in place, would you want to close that bridge?
I don't know anything about that gate, so I won't speak to that either way. But I can for sure look into that. This road is kind of half district Okanagan Shuswap, that is, and half BC Timber Sales managed. So what's happening on their side, we don't really know about, and what's happening on ours, they don't necessarily know about. So it might take some communication, but we can look into that and get you an answer for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ridge.
Through the chair. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. I just want to say that this bridge is really important to our community. And it has been pulled in and out several times. And I think it would be great if we can work with you folks on trying to figure out, I heard you say it's 1 to 3 year lifespan on this, and how we make that longer for our backcountry, but also for the protection of our community, because when we need to get up there because of fires, and obviously this has been an issue here in town and it will continue in BC. So I really hope that we can work together on keeping this bridge in for the protection of our community and also for our backcountry.
Yeah, for sure. We appreciate your thoughts on that. And yeah, I'll just reiterate that the lifespan of the bridge wasn't decided on based on access needs or anything. It's just a limitation of the design itself. Yeah, so it could totally change, and that decision had nothing to do with who needs it or who wants it. It was just a limitation of the engineered design.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should keep that for our recreational use for the backcountry. What limits the design to 1 to 3 years? Is it just like unpressure treated abutments, or how much would it cost to retrofit it to extend the lifespan?
Yeah, so This bridge isn't, it's entirely made of metal, so it's called an all steel portable. So 100% of the components. So it's not really limited by the structure itself. It's more the clearance under, so from the bottom edge of the bridge to the stream, we call that Q100. So there's a limitation to the amount of water that you can expect going under the bridge. So leaving it in over 3 years just puts it at risk of seeing higher flows. So essentially, we'd have to lift the bridge higher to have it a longer lifespan, which is absolutely doable on that site. That's not a real, like the actual construction is a limitation. It just wasn't designed for that because it didn't matter if it was beyond 3 years or not.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. Councillor Bushel, Felicia's gonna.
Yeah, I was probably just gonna touch on why we deactivate roads in the first place. If you guys want to hear about that.
Yes. Yep, go ahead.
Right on. So there's a lot of roads on the landscape and they all require constant inspections and maintenance just to make sure they're in good condition. Otherwise, we can't just leave them out there and forget about them. It's a huge liability. So we deactivate the roads in order to just mitigate that risk and so that the water can go where it needs to and no roads get washed out or take anything out downstream of them. So that's kind of why we're doing it. We're not doing it to cut off access or anything. It's really just mitigating the hazards out in the on the landscape. And we're really aiming for a net zero, that's what we call it. So deactivating as many roads as we put in. So that kind of requires us to deactivate quite a few out there. So that's kind of why we do it.
Hey, thank you. Councillor Rich.
Through the chair. Oh, yeah, thank you for that explanation. I know up, like around 100 Mile and stuff like that, different groups have taken over these roads. And like you say, the safety and all that kind of good stuff. Is that something that is feasible, with this road? That, someone else can check maintenance and make sure that it continues to be safe so that the town does have access to that, for fire, it's a massive issue. And we also, backcountry is also, something that's really important to our tourism and to our folks that live here in town. So is that something that, again, we can discuss and maybe having it handed over?
Well, that depends what road are you thinking the Sicamous Creek Ridge Road right now?
Sorry,
Yeah,
drinking water. Yes, absolutely.
okay,
We can talk about it next slide.
okay, we have a slide specifically for that one, actually.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, to talk about that road specifically, first I'll start, and I don't know if you all know this or not, so forgive me if I'm just telling you things you already know, but when roads are designated FSR or Forest Service Road, either they get allocated to the districts for them to manage, which can include recreation and private land access resource management, or they're allocated to BC Timber Sales. So those are the only two groups in the province that can officially administer Forest Service roads. And when they're British Columbia Timber Sales roads or BCTS, our mandate is to use them industrially. And if they're not used by us industrial anymore, then we can decide to deactivate them. If that happens, then the choice can go to the district if they want to take them over or not to manage recreation resources. But they do have the ability to say no when it's a high risk road. So this isn't a final decision at all, but I did talk to the district engineering officer out of the Vernon office here. And because of the assessments we've done and the history in the area, they wouldn't feel comfortable taking this on as an FSR. But there are other vehicles or methods, I suppose, to take on roads that aren't managed by BCTS and aren't managed district. So for this area, Timber Sales has decided that this is too high of a risk of a road, given the proximity to the stream and then the downstream resources of private land and the highway and the lake. and all those. So this road geotechnically, and we've had it assessed by a geotechnical engineer, is just too high risk for us to keep. And district agrees, but we're very amenable to exploring options and helping you guys explore other options for keeping access to that area. We obviously understand it's important. Unfortunately, it's not the only thing that goes on out there. But in its current state, we feel, and our report explains that it's just too high risk to leave it as is. But what other vehicles and what other methods could be used, we haven't really explored, but we're very willing to. And I think we're not ready to make the decision to just deactivate this or rehab this. So yeah, we're open to options and totally appreciate that you guys want the access longer term. So I think we can hopefully figure something out.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey, then Councillor Evans.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to this, question of deactivating. I mean, I don't know if I would call deactivating, making it safer, just the way it's actually physically done. I don't think it is safer in my opinion. I know there's probably a professional opinion, and then there's what I think is a common sense opinion, which where you put a ditch there that somebody could eventually hit. We're not talking about decommissioning the entire road or replanting or anything like that. We're just talking about preventing other people from using it. So, I mean, I'd suggest to you that the issue around safety and the way it's being accomplished isn't actually being accomplished. I think it's making it probably worse on a safety level. And then two, so, if you can address that, why this is making it safer, in your opinion. And two, these are ultimately public lands. And what we're talking about is that we want to enable citizens, and they're provincial citizens as well, and Canadians, and everybody has a right to kind of use the access to public lands. Why can we not find a way to enable this without having to go through multiple years of back and forth? We know a lot of people have a connection to the backcountry. We know our town relies on it. We know that it has an economic benefit. And we also know that I think in the end, if people are using the backcountries, they have a healthier respect and connection to what is a great natural resource. So maybe you can just touch on those two, because from my perspective, and I think from a lot of residents' view, is that there seems to be some roadblocks put up that are stopping people from enjoying what is ultimately a public access or a public asset. And there doesn't seem to be a really strong rationale to do that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think every road we deactivate has that balancing act of environmental safety and like road user safety. So I think a lot of the time when you hear that it's safer to deactivate a road, people are speaking more to the environmental safety side of things. So a big problem in BC is how we refer to as legacy roads. So they're built at a different time when we had different road standards, lots dating back to the 50s and 60s. They had a different view on where to put roads and a different view on how to construct roads. So now that those have aged to how old they are now, in some areas of the province, obviously varying depending on where they are and what's below it, they pose, anywhere from a low risk to a very significant risk to public safety, highways, other infrastructure, lakes, fish habitat, that kind of thing. So a lot of the time when we decide to deactivate a road, we're thinking overall impact to the land and potential impact to the land if something catastrophic happened. So you look at the atmospheric river of November 2021, lots of Forest Service roads above Highway 99, Duffy Lake had slides, some very catastrophic and some very minor. And there's many reports that tie all those back to poor road deactivation. So these roads were deactivated in a 10-year sense, but not done properly on the ground. So over the years, because there is no tenure, there's no one looking after them. These cross ditches fill up, crossings fill up with sediment. Rain takes its toll, and the drainage just doesn't work anymore. It's far from natural, and it's far from how the road was constructed. So that poses, in some situations, a very significant risk. So we take that, and we also do our best to balance it with public safety. Obviously, as you describe it, digging a ditch on a road where somebody's driving, that seems like a dangerous way to do it. When we do it properly and when we do it well, and I really believe that we do it well a lot of the time, it's well signed. It's clear that there's no vehicle access, and if you are gonna be traveling on that road, it's gonna be at a very slow rate of speed. And, you know, hopefully people are mitigating the hazards personally when they're riding ATVs or driving their trucks. But for sure, I can appreciate that, in some situations, it does cause a safety hazard. But I think overall, usually the environmental safety aspect kind of overrides that. We should still balance the road user safety aspect of it. But a lot of these areas are just too high risk to leave on the landscape as they are. And like Matt explained, BC Timber Sales has a net zero road initiative. So if we build 10 kilometers of road a year, we should be deactivating 10 or more. You know, it mitigates climate change. It's better for animals. Lots of hunting societies like this kind of thing. So yeah, it's a balancing act for sure. I hope that at least somewhat answered your question.
Yep, go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, so I just want to, drill down on that a little bit. It seems like, well, I mean, just by your answer, it's environmental concerns first and foremost, which kind of gets to the decision to deactivate this road. And then when we get to deactivation, it's basically a culvert that is dug in the middle of the road to stop people. You might put up some signage, but it doesn't seem to be anything more than that. So I guess I'm just kind of questioning what the ultimate goal is. If we're gonna say, okay, we're gonna shut down these areas that are used for recreation. We know they're used for recreation. We hear from people that say we use it. And then what the purpose of that is on the environmental side. If people can't go out and enjoy the backcountry, have an appreciation for it, and all of these other good things that come from engaging in the land, then how does that eventually play out? Because the way I see it is we're taking what is a public asset and preventing people from effectively using it because we said we want to have an environmental approach to it. People start losing a sense of connection after they can't actually use it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Ultimately, the entire goal of deactivation is to manage and ideally put back the drainage of a road system to its natural state. So we'll take out pipes, like culvert pipes, and leave the natural water drainage free flowing. You'll often see when ATVs and trucks and even sometimes foot traffic get into these roads after we've done that, because there's no ongoing maintenance, that can eliminate that natural drainage. So people coming in and spinning tires even inadvertently through a water crossing will eventually fill that up with sediment, and then it could essentially just be blocked from natural drainage. So yeah, it's ultimately the goal is to just restore natural drainage because we're very aware that roads usually alter to some degree, depending on the road, the natural drainage of a site. So the entire point is to put it back to that natural drainage, and then understanding that any access from vehicle can change that drainage furthermore. So it's basically just to limit the impact to water and downstream water.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, through the chair. What's your calendar, your plans right now for that road? In a sense, over the next few years, is it open right now just because it's being used by BC Timber Sales? Do you know what your plans are and what the timeline is?
Only vaguely. So all we've done on this road so far, last year we went and kind of tuned up some of the water bars just to make drainage a little better. And then we've gotten this draft for now, geotechnical engineer report on how best to deactivate the road. And from there, we have no real plans. We have this report and now we're going to decide what to do with it. And then obviously in conversation with you guys and road users and stuff, we can make our ultimate decision. But kind of for roads like this, higher risk roads, the info gathering part, especially with the geotechnical reports, you know, that's kind of when we start deciding. And I'd say we're, you know, early on in that stage still, so no real timeline. So for now, it exists as it has for a long time now.
Thank you. Councillor Bushel.
Thank you, through the chair. Couple things. Would that geotechnical report be, public? Could we get a copy of that? Is that public, info?
For now, it's just draft, so it's not signed by the individual who went out there. So we usually keep those, just the property of the contractor and us until they're finalized. But once it's finalized, we could absolutely share that out with you for sure.
Okay. Just going back a few years, I mean, it was interesting to see it deactivated here just last year. But being around since the early 80s, that road hasn't been touched since the early 80s or before I even came. And I remember it used to be the District of Sicamous' sewage dump site up there. And so it hasn't been really touched since then, as far as I know. So it's a pretty stable and pretty not a high hazard. I mean, sure, it runs up the canyon, but it is not a high hazard because nothing's happened there in the last 40 years. So anyways, those are a couple things, but I think maybe if you're not going to deactivate for a little, you know, if you can give us a little time, I wouldn't mind maybe seeing if I could get some staff out there and maybe any counselors that wanted to go for a ride, just to give them a quick sense of how important the area is for access, for joins up with the Owlhead Forestry Service Road, which is a snowmobile trail. And it's just a big loop that actually is very important. And if we start doing more community, I guess, forestry brushing doing the undergrowth and getting rid of all that, these roads are really, really important for access to those areas. So I know we're really focusing on the Owlhead area because it has a lot of underbrush, and I know they've been logging up there, and maybe we could have even one of your staff members come on that tour. If we could do that in early September, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, in all things forestry, I think the best way to understand it and to really appreciate it is to just go look at it. So, yeah, I mean, even if you guys want some of us to tag along, and you know, I'd love to show you guys some good deactivation and some intent that we're out there to do. And I hope that would help you guys understand our point of view. And you know, I think that'd be fantastic for sure.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, thank you. I was just curious about your process for deactivation as far as referrals go. You mentioned for service roads, regional districts. Are local municipalities part of your referral process, or we're not in the loop on that one?
Yeah, I think that is something that we're a little hit or miss on, to be honest. We do our best to share out with everybody involved in the road. But in some cases, and not this one specifically, I wasn't involved in the referral for this one, so I can't really speak to it. But in some cases, it's hard to understand who uses the roads overall. But I think that's something that we're really refining as we look to, you know, continue deactivating a decent amount of road each year in varying areas, not all close to town. Obviously, there's lots of area that not many people use. So it's a varying level of referral needed, but yeah, I think that's something we could improve on for sure.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Malcolm, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, please. Yeah, I think it would be appreciated because, you know, we're a level of government and we're in tune with our communities. So if you were to make, you know, local government a part of your referral process, blanket across the board, if you will, then that could save you a lot of footwork, finding out what the stakeholders are using that area, because your local municipality would probably already know that.
Yeah, that's a very good point for sure. Yeah.
Councillor, I'm gonna go to Councillor Beach because we haven't heard from her yet. So then we'll go to you, Councillor Rich.
Thank you, through the chair. I just want to echo what I'm hearing from Gord and Malcolm and everybody. I really think that the missing piece is not consulting closely enough before you make these decisions on with the municipality and the people who would be planning to use that road and what it's for. I don't think we need willy-nilly roads into the forestry for people to access, but we absolutely need consultation at the municipal level to determine which roads and what uses they would serve. and how we want to handle the risks if there are risks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rich.
Through the chair, I'm just gonna echo what Councillor Beach said. That's, please know we're passionate about this and we would love to work together. And what we need to have our staff do to work with you folks. This is an important piece to our community and we appreciate you guys coming today and talking to us.
Okay. All right, thanks, council, and you guys can carry on.
I just want to do some quick updates on our activities. So there's some down here, which is a TSL we sold, TA2489, a couple months ago. This TSL was sold as Beetle salvage following the 2021 fires. This was a referral that was sent out to the District of Sicamous. I think in the winter, maybe like November, October of 2023. And then we sent out a referral here, and that's in the research forest, Q5MD from this winter's referral. And right now we're still in the process of working on it. But we will be looking at additional areas around the research forest due to the 2024 fire salvage. So that's basically what we have going on. Did you have anything else to add, Jen?
Not really. I mean, that would just be the potential with that research forest block and the 2024 to use that bridge, that Ashton Mara connector to the Owlhead. So that could be a potential to prolong the life of that bridge. Depending on sort of what we can find out once we sort of get into look at the 2024 fire salvage and the possibilities of harvesting the research forest.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bailey.
Just a housekeeping question. I wonder if we could get a copy of that presentation sent to our staff and then, so because we don't have a copy of it, but I was wondering if you would share that with us.
Yeah, I did send it to Sarah. Sarah, are you able to send it out for me?
Okay,
Through the chair, yeah, we can circulate that to council.
thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bushel.
No, I was gonna ask the same thing.
Okay, perfect. Any more questions from council? Okay, thank you guys very much. It sounds like communication between both parties should be scheduled. Thanks for all the information today.
So thank you for having us today.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
You.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on. Municipal Food Waste Reduction Pilot Program. Farah Serfdin, I hope I'm pronouncing that.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Do you want to take it away?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I don't know where my video went. There we go. Let me try that again. Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I will be sharing my screen. Just bear with me just a moment. There we go. Let me know if you can see my screen. Yes.
Yep.
Great.
We're good.
All right. So thank you for taking the time today, everyone. Thank you. My name is Bara, and I am the Municipal Program Coordinator with Food Cycle Science. And I'm here to present the results of the Food Cycler Pilot Program in the District of Sicamous. Before we look at the results, I wanted to give you a quick overview of who we are. Food Cycle Science is a Canadian company. We're based out of Ottawa. We're 100% focused on providing food waste diversion solutions using our innovative technology called the Food Cycler. 2022 and 2023 were really big years for us. We were selected as finalists in Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge. And we'd like to acknowledge that your district's Food Cycler program was made possible in part due to the federal funding from this program. And as a company, we're really proud to say that today we are the trusted food waste diversion solution for over 150 municipal partners. And when the District of Sicamous joined, we were the 82nd municipality to pilot this solution. So we really want to acknowledge and thank you for your willingness to trial an innovative solution to the longstanding problem that is food waste. So as I mentioned, with support from Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge, your pilot program included 100 participating households. The net cost to the district was $10,000 plus shipping and HST. The program ran from February to May of this year, where usage was tracked for 12 weeks to calculate total waste diversion. And your residents completed a survey to provide the data and feedback that we're going over now. So we were able to collect 65 responses from the 100 participants. And these first two questions here are to give you an idea of the importance of greenhouse gas reduction and waste reduction in the district. So your residents rated greenhouse gas reduction an 8 out of 10 and waste reduction a 9 out of 10. And when we asked your residents where their food waste went prior to using their food cycler, 42% of your residents indicated that their food waste was going into the garbage. And a number of your residents also said that they were able to compost all year, whereas for others, that was really only a possibility during the spring to summer months. So when we asked your residents why they didn't compost, 66% chose not to because of concerns about animals like bears and raccoons. A number of your residents also reported concerns about odors, maintenance, and space. And these answers are very much in line with a lot of the data that we have collected in our programs. And the food cycler really is a great solution for these issues because it's easy to use. The byproduct is odor-free and also prevents those wildlife encounters. And when we look at the distribution of units in the district, you had about a 50-50 split of FC30s and Eco5s. And based on the data collected for diversion, your residents were running an average of 3.45 cycles per week on their FC30s and 2.79 cycles per week on their. So this is equivalent to about 237 kilograms of food waste per year per household being diverted using the food cycler, which works out to about 23.7 metric tons of food waste being diverted from your landfills every year with the 100 food cyclers in use. The 100 food cyclers over the course of the year will also be able to divert 30.8 metric tons of CO2e equivalents, which is about 36 acres of forest sequestering carbon each year. And when we asked residents about the number of standard garbage bags they were generating prior to using their food cycler, they were generating about 1.40, and after using their food cycler, they were generating about 0.85 garbage bags. So this translates to your residents generating 0.55 fewer garbage bags per week, which is a reduction of 28.5 garbage bags per household per year that will not be trucked to your local landfills. And when we asked your residents if increased awareness of food waste motivated them to waste less food, an overwhelming majority said that yes, it did. And we find that when people manage their food waste at home, they really become much more aware of how much food they waste to begin with. And we say that the most effective waste diversion strategy really is to not generate any waste to start. So the awareness that comes with this program really is incredibly important. And though it can be difficult to put that into numbers, it's an added value that the solution provides and likely contributed to the reduction of garbage bags that I mentioned in the previous slide. And when we asked your residents if the district were to offer a food cycler program at low or no cost, 78% of your residents indicated that they thought that their friends and neighbors would participate. And when we asked if they would recommend the food cycler to others, 96% of your residents would recommend it based on their own experience. So this slide is pretty self-explanatory, and it really speaks to the success of the pilot. 93% of your residents are going to continue using their food cyclers as a solution to their food waste moving forward. This level of participation really far exceeds any other organics waste management solution there is out there today. For example, here in Ottawa, where we have weekly curbside bereavement pickup, really only have a 57% participation rate. And when we look at backyard composting, which is available to everyone who has the space and knowledge to do so, the rates of adoption have been fairly stagnant for the past few decades. So this 93% rate of participation really is incredibly encouraging and speaks to the willingness of your residents to adopt this program. And overall, your residents rated the pilot 4.5 out of 5 stars, with 59% of your residents leaving it at 5 stars. This really is a testament to all of the work and all of the effort that has been put into planning and launching the pilot in the district. And this next slide here is just a compilation of some of the written feedback and comments that we've received from residents, and we like to be able to share that to be transparent with some of the constructive and helpful comments that we can learn from. And just to recap everything that we've discussed, so you're looking at 23.7 metric tons of food waste being diverted from the 100 food cyclers in your pilot. Your residents reported a reduction of 0.55 garbage bags per week, which is 28.5 garbage bags per resident per year that's being diverted from your landfills. And 93% of your residents are going to continue using their food cycler. We also wanted to give you a quick idea of what it looks like when you scale up a food cycler program. The city of Nelson in BC is the first municipality that's adopted the food cycler at the community level. And some of the resources there in place include partnerships with a local Safeway that hosts a carbon refill station for residents to access carbon pellets for free. We also have a local repair program. We have dirt-proof bins for residents who don't use their soil amendment, their byproduct, where they can drop it off. We also have an e-waste recycling program and an extensive education program. So really the possibilities with program expansions are endless, and we're always happy to discuss those opportunities with you. And some next steps that we also have in order to fully understand the life cycle analysis of a food cycler organics program, we have an emissions calculation tool. It's a consultative tool. It allows you to assess the impact of your community has by eliminating GHG emissions and the impact it can continue to have on sustainability efforts. We also have a new model that's come out. It's just come out. It's called the Eco3. It's a 3.5 liter model. It is in between the FC30 and the Eco5, but it has the same robust grinding mechanism that the Eco5 has. And as one of our early implementation partners, you have first right of refusal for any Impact Canada funding that comes through. And we just ask that you accept this presentation as information. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you, Barry. Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, sometimes when it gets plugged up, I notice if your sales would include a small toolkit with an L wrench or an L wrench and a small to fit the nut, that would be helpful.
We have actually just started developing a tool, so we've heard the feedback, and hopefully we'll have that available before the end of the year, but we can definitely let you know.
All right, good. Thanks. Councillor Ridge.
Through the chair, yeah. So lots of my friends and family have gotten these things, and I've spent lots of time with them. They're named, they're quiet, and everybody is just, I honestly have not had one complaint where everyone is like, they're like a little nice cats who live on the counter. So yeah, just an incredible, I think it's been really great for Sicamous, and thank you to the mayor and Kelly who met you guys, I think in Toronto or somewhere.
FCM.
Yeah, so yeah, really great for our community.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, Councillor Beach.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
it goes
You're a big fan.
without saying,
No, you're-
I am a fan, and I hope that we can see our way to continue making this something that's part of our recycling program here and expand on it. Stan.
Well, maybe we need to put some plans in motion to expand it right out to the entire community, so.
Yeah.
Good. We only have what, 3,500 more to go. Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
You as well.
Take care.
Okay, moving along, we've got the Sicamous Community Health Center update. Karen, take it away.
Good afternoon, through the chair. For this quarter. So the practice continues to grow. We now have a patient panel of 2,942 patients. I ran a comparison from last year to this year at the same time period, just both visits, telehealth, and although we were down in visits by 645, we were also had 1.5 larger FTE last year at this time. So, or last year at this time. So we had Dr. Alam and Dr. Connick here. So Dr. Edmondson and nurse practitioner Jennifer have really picked up the slack to make sure that there was no lag and no gap in healthcare. So so we have walk-ins continue to be a big part. It was approximately 10% in this last, for that time period. Telehealth is approximately 40%. That will always probably be the case. And I don't have on there, but the foot nurse continues to come in every 6 weeks. And so she sees a full host of patients every 6 weeks. And so in that time period, she saw 97 patients. So Dr. Katingo, yay. We're so excited about him arriving. He actually arrived in Salmon Arm on Friday. He joined us for our staff meeting yesterday. And there was a few things that were sort of waiting on to, make sure to get him going, but that all came together today. So I'm meeting with him right after this meeting to get some final paperwork signed. We'll probably see him in the office next week. Maybe not seeing patients the first couple of days, but just, getting familiarized, and he's had access to the EMR for about a month. So he can start reviewing his patients. And so we're just really pleased that Captain posted this last Thursday, I believe it was, in the afternoon, and by the phone started ringing immediately. And so within short order, there was 100 patients registered. We are making Sicamous residents priority, although we are receiving calls from, we sort of, our catchment is Tappan, sort of the furthest west, and of course Malacross, Swansea Point, Glenrod, even Enderby, Malacross, of course. And so what we're doing right now is we're setting out new patient intake forms. And so that's what Dr. Katingo will be doing for the first few days, is sort of going through them, uploading them into the EMR, and then we'll start booking meet and greets. And of course, he's taking on Dr. Alam's patients. So it's a very welcome sight, and he's lovely. So we're really, really looking forward to that. So we're also be using the parental attachment system for him, and what that is, it's kind of a twofold thing. There's the patient-facing part of it, and then the provider-facing. So doctors register their patient panels with it on the attachment system, and patients will register themselves on Health Connect. And so they have attachment coordinators that sort of try to fit the pieces together. Our nurse practitioner Jennifer she's also taking new patients, but mostly through the provincial attachment system. So she gets emails saying that, reach out to these patients, and so that's how that works. And so Dr. Alam's patient panel will be registered. Well, actually, Dr. Katingo's now. They'll be registered with the provincial attachment system, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And so we'll also be utilizing that as well. So it's a little, it's different in that the doctors can then decide, he's going to be really busy right out of the gate, so he can sort of decide to take on as many as he wants in his own time. So it's a really great program. It's new So there are a few glitches, which is why his panel isn't yet registered. So we had Sydney Clark join us last month as a practicum student, and that was really, really great. She finishes on Friday, so it's 100 hours. And so she was mentored by Carla, Kira and Sandra, which was an exceptional team, and it's a real, like some demanding aspects of that role. So she certainly saw a lot in the last 100 hours. So we were really pleased to welcome her. She's a local girl, and she's done really well. So BC Community Association of Health, or BC Association of Community Health Centers. This is a really lovely moment. Last December, we applied for a grant. It's through the Ministry Sustainability Grant, which is facilitated through BCATCH. And so we were awarded the full ask. And so that is going to, it was based on what our budgeted deficit this year was going to be. And so there'll be no shortage of use for that money. We're just not exactly, and you know, well, it'll evolve. We're not really sure exactly how we're going to utilize it at this stage, but lots of options. So that was really great. Also, I'll just go back to this. BCATCH is hosting an annual, the first annual conference and AGM, and that's in Vancouver. And it's called Our Place in BC's Health and Wellness Sector, looking through an equity lens. So I'm going to be attending this event, and all of the expenses are paid for by BCATCH. Sessions include diversity, equity, and inclusion. So current focuses in team resiliency. Panel discussion on team-based care, which is really going to be fascinating. Community accountability and CHC governance processes, and current issues facing CHCs and what that looks like moving forward. So I will report on that on my next update, but that is September 19th and 20th. And while I'm in Vancouver, I'll also be visiting contemporary office interiors for some of the finishing for the new building. So make use of that time there. Rural health initiatives. I bring this up in every update because I think it's really important to highlight and acknowledge the advocacy that is taking place on so many different levels from so many different organizations to ensure that rural practitioners and rural residents have equity in health. And it's really quite remarkable, the amount, the energy and the commitment that goes into this. One of those programs is the Rural Locum Program. As I mentioned in our previous update, I applied for and received 33 additional days for vacancy days, which was filled that gap. And Dr. Burke from Revelstoke has fulfilled 31 of those days as of today. And looking forward, looking ahead, she's also going to fill some time for when Dr. Emerson takes a much needed vacation in the fall. So she'll probably cover 7 of those days, but by then we'll have Dr. Katingo in full swing. So that's going to be sufficient, I think. The other thing is the Rural Coordination Center of BC does some amazing things as well. And in November, they're going to be hosting some virtual platforms for rural, remote First Nations and Métis communities to have their voices amplified on critical issues. And those issues include the rural and remote health strategy being developed by the Ministry of Health, transportation for health services, education and training for healthcare providers in rural communities, and hybrid healthcare. So including peer-to-peer virtual support, in-person and virtual patient consultations. I've been invited to go to the trainings to facilitate some of these gatherings. And so I'm going, and all of that also is covered by RCCBC. It scares me. It really kind of knocks on the walls of my introversion. But I think this work is so important. And so I'm gonna do it. So looking forward to that, I think. And we also continue to utilize the rural continuing medical education funding. I mentioned before about the AED purchase and training. That is still in the works, which is sort of seeing exactly how this money is gonna work in the new building too. And then we'll do that purchase as well as just arranging to have, pardon me, the point of care ultrasound training that could have, there was a really comprehensive training at the conference, but none of the doctors could go. So I'm arranging to have some in-house training for our team and potentially some other doctors in the area that might have not been able to attend. And because we got that great tool and it's not being utilized to its fullest. And so having the team trained together is gonna be a really great thing because then everybody feeds off each other and everybody, you know, like somebody might hear something different than somebody else or have a bigger interest in, you know, lungs and hearts, or, you know, so it's a really amazing tool and we are so fortunate to have one in-house. The BC Rural Health Conference, that was held in Whistler. Where it's supposed to be. So I was able to attend that again, and those, the RCME funds actually covered the cost for me to go this year, so that was also really appreciated. It's a really big event, and it's really wonderful to see all these practitioners come together, and their passion for rural health is really, really something. So I attended those sessions listed there. The cultural safety and humility was a really interesting one. It was the theme was untying colonial knots. It was based on a research project, and there's a really beautiful image of a net. Actually, it's 860,000 knots. And it's kind of, it looks like a big fishing net, and it was suspended between several buildings in Vancouver. It was an art installation. And it was just a metaphor for how we need to untie those insidious knots that are there for whatever reason. And we all have them, and we all, in our own sphere of influence and upbringing, we have them. And it was a really great discussion and really hard to, you know, try to, you know, reiterate any of it here, but the big thing that stood out for me was, you know, anytime you go to untie a knot, you know, it takes patience, it takes, you know, you can't be like jittery, you have to be quiet, you have to be gentle, and you have to take your time. And that is, as we untie, each of us untie our own colonial knots, whatever they might be, you know, the thread that, you know, that comes out, we just need to make sure that that thread is woven properly after the fact. So there's a lot of work to be done, and it's hard. It's hard to know what to do at times. So anytime I can sit in on those sessions, I really try to take advantage of it because there's so much to learn. And so they were all really great. Conversations That Matter was, it was a full morning. Prior to, it was pre-conference, and it was based on breaking the silence. It's about self-compassion and shame in medicine, which, you know, it always, you know, some of the conversations were just so powerful. And, you know, cases that haunt practitioners in medicine and actually in life, like we all have them. And, you know, it's rarely talked about, and it was about taking care of yourself and what, you know, you need to do, and have those people in your life that you can talk to and that you can share with, because it's a big thing to take care of your heart and your soul and your spirit, and we can get bogged down quite easily. So it was a really, really amazing event. In fact, I have stayed in touch with several of the people that have participated in that. It was just that kind of an event. So healthcare approach in rural communities, sort of, you know, there was lots of different things about that, just like we talk about in here. Interfacility transport was basically that. It was a really neat presentation about fixed wing and helicopter transportation, beyond recycling and the environmental impact of medicine. And, you know, that boiled down to empowering patients, looking at environmental alternatives and proper health promotion. Technology, locums first aid, the locums first aid was more about from the doctor's perspective and was concentrated on the ER, but it was really interesting to see what, you know, as a locum, what are they looking for? And the rural locum program really helps out with that for where like our community profile is concerned. And so that's another program that the rural community does. And our TVS is real-time virtual support. And that is a program that is really critical to rural health. There's 3 pathways that are 24/7. Doctors can phone in 24/7, and they're have acronyms. One's called Rudy, one's called Mabel, and one's called Charlie. So it's emergency medicine, maternity and newborn, and pediatrics. So they have immediate access to advice. And then there's the quick pathways, which is available weekdays, and sometimes they might get back to you in a few days. So it's dermatology, myofascial pain, rheumatology, neurology, thrombosis, and hematology. So there's, you know, people don't have to often travel to go to see a specialist somewhere. They can, you know, between the practitioner and the specialist, they can do things for virtually. The BC Rural Health Network is another one of those initiatives that are just amazing. And I continue to sit on the implementation committee, which is led by Dr. Jude Cornelison, and she's an associate professor at the Faculty of Family Medicine. And she's also the chair for rural health research. And so it's, you know, we work on position papers and that type of thing. They're advocacy to government and stakeholders. And it's we need quarterly, sometimes more. There's a few papers that are working on right now. The most recent is rural solutions to care for the aging population. And there's some of the others were community participation in healthcare planning and decision-making and delivery, travel subsidies for rural residents, and ensuring quality care for rural birthers. So there's a lot of, that's more of that work that's being done, you know, just relentlessly in the background. So.
Thank you, Karen. Council questions, Councillor Beach.
To the chair, yeah, Karen, I wish I was with you on your journey. You know, I miss it, but I recognize you are doing a fantastic job of representing this community and the health needs and the progress that we are making here. So I want to thank you for that, for the fact that you are out there advocating on behalf of us and doing a great job.
Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo that. Thank you for helping council make council's vision a reality and a success story across BC, probably Western Canada, probably Canada. I mean, healthcare is in crisis mode, and yet we're able to recruit doctors, and we have a patient panel of 2,900, and the population of Sicamous is maybe 2,700. So we're obviously more than just a community health center. We're a regional health center. Great news in getting that grant, that, you know, a community health center. How are we doing in trying to get sanctioned as a community health center? So Interior Health, we have a continuous revenue stream.
And it was part of what you asked.
To get sanctioned as a community health center,
Okay.
you know, by the government through Interior Health or however it works. So we have a continual revenue stream there.
Yeah, those are called strategy funded centers. And I don't know.
Okay.
No, it's really up to the ministry, and I really don't know.
Well, because the government's recognizing us for getting a grant of $115,000, we must be doing something right as far as community health center goes. So it seems like a logical next step to get sanctioned somehow, or whatever the proper terminology is.
Yeah, And I feel like we'll just keep moving forward and pulling and pushing and pulling it where we need to and doing what we do. And hopefully that'll be recognized. It's you know, but in the meantime, you know, we're doing okay.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm impressed and thank you for all that work and making it a success.
Councillor Rich, Councillor Bushel.
Chair, yeah, Karen, I just want to say thank you. And again, the staff at the clinic, you know, my friend's family, myself use the clinic and just an incredible, and we really need to remember all the folks that work at the clinic and just what a great community asset we have going there. And that's the people that work there. Quick question, does Dr. Katinko have hospital privileges?
Yes, he came to our meeting yesterday. That was one of the questions. He will be getting hospital privileges. Actually, the reason he's living in Salmon Arm is he's close to the hospital for maternity stuff. So it would be lovely to have him here in town, but he's actually in Salmon.
And he's a maternity doctor by trade?
Well, he'll take on maternity patients.
Very cool. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, great job, Karen. I like how you're getting all that funding for those conferences, and those conferences are so important because you can network and find out different ideas of things, what other communities are doing. And so, yeah, great work. I had one question. I had a call yesterday from a resident who, and I referred him to you anyways, but he has a doctor here and he wanted to change doctors and he wasn't allowed to change doctors. So now he asked me, he said, now I gotta go to Salmon Arm. But I never thought about, you know, he should wait till Dr. Kingo gets in and maybe he could go with.
Yeah, that question comes up.
Is it? Yeah.
Not a lot, sometimes. Every practitioner in the clinic is a contractor and they have their patient panel is their business.
Yeah.
And so it's, if there's a, you know, a lack of communication or a personality rob or something like that, you know, nobody wants to see somebody go elsewhere. So there's capacity for those conversations. It's not, we have done it, but as like the MLA can't just do it. They can't just say, okay, well, we'll just switch you over here. It's a process.
Yeah.
And it's a discussion between the current practitioner and the potential new practitioner. And there's all kinds of reasons why people might want to switch.
Yeah.
And they're not personal when it comes to the doctors, but it's, you know, we're really mindful of the optics of that for the doctors and the reality and the nurse practitioner. And so, yeah, it's a can of worms in some ways. But it isn't. I mean, because at the end of the day, we want our citizens to have access to healthcare that they, you know, that they're comfortable with. So, yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully that person will contact you because I sent him to you, so hopefully they'll contact you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good job.
Thanks, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, thank you very much, Karen, and to your entire team. I think, you know, over the last couple of years, done an exceptional job of managing it all, and there's been a lot of different moving parts. So it's not just from the report today, very thorough. Thank you. Learned a few things, but I think it's just an ongoing evolution of where this probably started when I saw it as a counselor 2 years ago, or where it started, what is it, about 3 years ago, right? That took over, and where it is now, and then where it's going. And I mean, my big takeaway there is that this is doing a lot more good than just for Sicamous. And I mean, the numbers tell the real story. And I think that's probably only going to grow as people realize that there's some capacity out there, because we know there's a lot of demand for people who want to have family health services. So yeah, great job. And I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work. And I think it'll continue. You're on a really good path. So thanks.
Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, on a slightly different note, from a memo here from you on July 15th about the name of the center, our community health center. Councillor Rich and myself represent our council with Flats and our friends and neighbors Flats and we'll be making recommendations to council, suggestions to council at our in-camera meeting today about a potential name change that Splatson supports, and I think possibly council might support. So coming soon.
Excellent. Thank you, Karen. I just want to echo what council has just shared. I think you're doing an amazing job. And I think that we are so fortunate to have a healthcare center in our community that we are running, because, you know, hadn't that happened, we'd have been going to Salmon Arm right now. So, and I'm grateful every time you come and present. I'm reminded how grateful we are in our community to have a healthcare center for the region. And a posting saying need a physician. How many people don't have physicians, right? So for us in our community to reach out to our community and say, hey, you need a doc, then I think that's amazing. It's amazing. And I can't thank you enough for the great job that you're doing as well. So thank you so much. And your team. Okay, thanks, Karen. Okay, Miss Sarah. You want to talk about some wildlife? There's a recommendation that staff be directed to prepare the wildlife attractant bylaw number 1080 for first, second, and third reading by council at the next council meeting, and that the proposed fines for bylaw offenses be approved. Mover, Councillor McCabe, Councillor Beach, take it away, Sarah.
Thank you through the chair. So I just have some slides to guide us through the discussion today. So again, our purpose today is to present the draft bylaw for regulating wildlife attractants and vector in the community and protecting wildlife and citizens. The background here is that on June 26th, the Committee of the Whole directed staff to prepare a draft wildlife attractant bylaw for council consideration. And also to add to that, we have had delegations in 2022 and 2023 that have supported council and the community enacting such a bylaw. So one was the BC Conservation Office Service and another was a resident. So just some background there. So for discussion, so we do have other bylaws that speak to one is vermin and one is domestic animals. We have our good neighbor bylaw, which prohibits property in any condition that may provide food or habitat to vermin. This is under the definition of unsightly. And we also have our animal control bylaw, which regulates domestic animals in the community. The district has never had a bylaw that regulates wildlife attractants or vector control. So just some different definitions here. So there's a little bit of overlap in some, but in our good neighbor bylaw, vermin, so that's any animal that may damage buildings or structures, spread filth, or spread disease. So this would include rats. Animal control bylaw, we have animals, that's any domesticated animal as defined by the Wildlife Act. Our wildlife attracted bylaw, so we have vector, and at first I was not sure what this is, so I've learned, and you will too. So a carrier organism that is capable of transmitting a pathogen from one facility, waste source, product, or organism to another. So this could include a mouse, insect, raccoon, or skunk. And then wildlife, any animal not ordinarily tame or domesticated, including any animal defined in the Wildlife Act, and any animal of any type with no apparent private owner, but does not include any domesticated animal. So it's just looking at the different definitions within the various bylaws. So for discussion, so today staff is looking for direction from the committee around prohibitions. So are the prohibitions satisfactory? And I've given a handout which includes the prohibitions and the fines attached to them. So maybe we can just start with that if council has had time to review the bylaw and the prohibitions that are being presented in this bylaw, if there's any discussion there.
Councillor Rich, go ahead.
Through the chair. Thank you, staff and Sarah, for doing this. It's important to me. So I've got a couple questions, and I don't know if it's about the prohibitions, but Terry actually called me yesterday, who is our he's the head of the CO for our region from Penticton out, and he gave me a call at home last night, actually, about this, and he was really, really impressed. He thought this was really forward thinking, and he was very thankful that our community is doing this. They're really struggling with Sicamous right now, with bears and raccoons and rats, and the COs are in a real hard position because they absolutely do not want to destroy animals, but a fed bear is a dead bear. And so when they have access to garbage or fruit trees or composts, and then they're breaking into homes or kids are threatened, they have to come and trap. And it's impossible to relocate bears even if you take a grizzly bear 100 miles away or 300 miles away, he'll be back in 3 or 4 days. The black bear is a little bit easier, but again, the black bears, they're going into a territory that isn't theirs. And so they don't know where the water source is. They don't know who the friends are. They don't know where to sleep. So literally it'd be like taking your dog and driving them up TFL and dropping them off. So they're in a really hard spot. So a couple things that Terry brought up to me was, and I don't know if this is the right time, so I'm just going to go through it, is adding hot wire for chickens and bees, because we are allowed 4 backyard chickens in our community, and chickens are a huge attractant to bears. And we see it a lot actually in the rural areas, CSRD, where chickens. And so he suggested that if people are going to keep backyard chickens and backyard beehives, which again are becoming quite popular, that is, you're required to hot wire it, electric fence. And then the other thing that I don't see on here, and I may have missed it, is that our stratas, including our trailer parks, have to have bear-proof containers for garbage. That it's not up to the individual person in a trailer park to manage their garbage. That again has been a really big problem in Sicamous this year for the COs, is that some of our trailer parks don't have bear-proof garbage containers. And then people are keeping the garbage in different ways, and it's caused removal of bears, and it's caused a lot of angst. So I don't know where that fits in, but those would just kind of be my two points.
Through the chair, so we did refer the bylaw out to the CO, to the COs, and we did get a response. So those weren't indicated, just that we add freezer or refrigerator unit intended to store food, food waste, beverages, or organic matter to the definition of wildlife attractant. And then they commented on the fines. However, just to speak to, so if you look at 4.2C, this says that every owner or occupier must ensure that other animals, including backyard hens and bees, as well as domestic animals, are kept in a manner that is reasonably inaccessible to wildlife, including their food. So we don't specify hot wire or electric fencing. So is that where we would potentially, or does that cover it?
Did you want to?
Yeah, through the chair, I would, and if you start like, and I mean, I know you've been through 8 million of these probably between Enderby and Cranbrook and every bylaw that there is. I would really ask that we're proactive on that, and that if people, it's like fencing your dog in. So 25 years ago, dogs ran around Sicamous without fences, and now we ask people to contain their dogs. And I think that if you want to be a beekeeper or you want to be a chicken keeper, it's just part of good animal husbandry. And that if you choose to bring those type of animals, which I'm all about backyard coops, I love chickens, great recycling. But that when someone chooses to have chickens on their property or bees on their property, that they actually, we know for a huge fact that hot wire will stop bears, and it will stop raccoons actually also. So for me personally, it's up to council. I would really advocate that, it's like if I want a dog, I have to put up a fence and I have to house him properly and make sure that he's got everything he needs. And if I'm going to be a beekeeper, I need to keep my bees safe and make sure that I'm not bringing in wildlife into town that maybe affect my neighbors also.
Okay, Sarah, we're going to Councillor Bailey and then to Bianca, please.
Yeah, thanks for getting this put together. I guess I agree in general terms that this could be helpful, but I also don't want to duplicate what we already have, right? Like I'm taking a look at resources, what we could reasonably do with the amount of bylaw capacity that we have. And I guess, so maybe this is my question to staff and somehow is like, are we, there's always good reasons to do something and then there's the reality and the practical nature of it. And I guess what I'm asking is this lining up with the practical nature of what we actually can do? And are we able to follow through if we enact this bylaw? I'm a little concerned that when we start getting into, I mean, it's a very long list in terms of, offenses. And I take, some of them, it's going to take some investigation in order to determine that, right? That's a lot of time. So I guess I just pose that question as a way of trying to get our heads wrapped around resources as well.
Through the chair, the good neighbor bylaw is similar when we're looking at unsightly. There's a lot of investigating that occurs. And the bylaw was referred to our bylaw department. They had no concerns. They did suggest like the incremental fine increases, which we've done, although their suggested increases were less than what our finance department suggested as a deterrent. But we do have our bylaw enforcement policy, and by policy, we always approach bylaw enforcement from an educational standpoint and try to gain, compliance before they would even go into, okay, you violated and now we're going to fine you. It's working with those property owners to help bring them into compliance through education. And so I don't, the resourcing and the staffing, that's more would be more to Nicole. It's her department under development services, but I do know that we approach it from an educational perspective first.
Bianca, go ahead.
I just had a quick question for Councilor Rich, just on the hot wiring, like being so specific about it. I've had backyard chickens and I went through a raccoon attack. I call it like an assassination of my chickens. Do we want to be as specific as hot wiring or more just to make sure that things can't get in when you have animals like that? Because I know just like a roof fully enclosed would satisfy, right? Not requiring hot wiring specifically, just for clarity on that, if we were to add that detail. I'm not sure, just spitballing.
Go ahead, sir.
Through the chair, some of the bylaws that we reviewed do have definitions for wildlife enclosures, and that would maybe satisfy that piece. I don't think I brought the other bylaws with me, unfortunately, but there are some that are more specific to that we could look at, including.
Councilor Rich?
Through the chair, and again, it's up to the council. I mean, I work with WildSafe, with Jillian, with WildSafe and with the COs quite a bit. And the hot wire works, so predator proof, we could do predator proof enclosures. We can put it that way, but we know, or these folks know, that when a bear gets zapped or a raccoon gets zapped, like I've actually helped put hot wire into 3 different places here in Sicamous, just regular piece without chickens that are having raccoon issues, and have gone down to PV Mart and spent under $200, like just people with backyards and the raccoons are digging stuff up or wrecking their gardens, and putting in $200 worth of hot wire. They get zapped once and they're never coming, and they're telling all their buddies, like they're out of there. So they know that hot wire works, and especially for bears. Predator proof, I mean, I'm happy with just predator proof. Terry suggested that some of the more, like he's like, that would be like the golden card. If we want to go in all in, that having, if you're going to have chickens or bees, that you have to have hot wire. That would be his best case scenario. Do we want to go in like that? I mean, I do. I mean, like I've been with where you're at, where, I've had a massacre. And it's awful, but the other part of that is it being awful for you is the killer will come back. He will continue to come back. So if you choose to have chickens, then you're also like, you're bringing bears to your neighbors, right? And raccoons to your neighbors. So do you want to be that person that is also, you know, I don't know, it's a council thing, but when you talk to the COs and you talk to WildSafe and you talk to people like Jillian who comes and does our bear program here in Sicamous, they will tell you that hot wire is massively effective. And honestly, the cost, if you're doing a backyard, like, you know, when you're farming and stuff, it's a lot more expensive, but putting in a little backyard system is about $200. So.
Thank you, Councillor Rich. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I'm not nearly as passionate about all the internal, so I'm looking at this more as a bylaw and more as a function of a municipality and what can we do? And one of my concerns is that how we do bylaw investigations is based on complaints, really, ultimately. I mean, if a bylaw officer was going by and they saw something, then they could stop, but ultimately everything is really generated by the public. And so I'm just looking kind of through this list and I'm just wondering if I guess I'm just wondering if we're just giving an exhaustive list for anybody that could look at this and say, well, I have a complaint on this or that. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily bad. I just want to make sure that when we put bylaws into force, that we can actually then follow up on it. And that's, I guess, my concern on this is, can we actually govern this and administer it? And if this is the right approach. So it's, you know, I have some concerns of it being so detailed. I get the intent behind it, but if we can actually go ahead and make sure it's being followed, then I just question if that's the right way to go. So.
Councillor Evans.
Thanks, through the chair. I just want to say this is really good and easy to understand. And I think that one of the key pieces will be in the education and awareness. You've got that we're going to do the Did You Know bylaw campaign. And I've noticed how much of a difference that is, the good job that's being done in our social media by Campton, and my 4 daughters mentioned it on the coast, is like, it's really helping get the word out. And I think that's what's going to help explain the basics of this. And then a lot of it will just be common sense. And it's including practical tips. Like, I'm glad I know I can go to PV Mart and get that now from Councilor Rich. So I think that this kind of stuff is going to be very key, and the Did You Know campaign will really help a lot with it. But this totally makes sense to me, and I appreciate all the hard work on it.
CEO.
Thank you, Mayor, and some members of council. Absolutely. In answer to your question, Councillor Bailey, we don't look at it as an exhaustive list. Our job and responsibility is to at least address what we would see potentially as, and that would occur, and not leave a bylaw that would be subjective. You know, and that's the important thing in terms of capacity. You know, with our new hire and through Nicole in the Department for Bylaw Enforcement, I think the challenge would be based on the frequency, you know, the volume of complaints that we receive. But we're not at that point in time now. We're just setting the stage for a successful program, and it complements all the other bylaws that Sarah had brought up as well.
Okay. Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I mean, I think you've done a good job putting this together, really thorough. I think Siobhan and Sarah have got worked hard on it, I'm sure. But it would be interesting, Nicole or Sarah, sorry, what you think of it. Is it manageable? I mean, is it going to cause a lot of problems, or is it manageable? You know, that would be interesting to know from staff that are out in the field. And I know you're brand new.
I mean, through the referral process, bylaw said that they're not concerned with this new program and with enforcing the bylaw. Again, educational and voluntary compliance approach. And also, yeah, Sound Arm Bylaw Services, who work in other communities as well, they also vetted the bylaw. But yeah, from a enforcement perspective,
okay.
No one's shouting they're scared at this point.
Okay.
I was just gonna say quickly too that just on the social media, if council does choose to adopt this bylaw, we might see a fun did you know real with Sierra.
That sounds good. Councillor McCabe, Councillor.
Yep. Thank you through the chair. Yeah, I support Councillor Rich's idea about being specific about an electric fence. And I think the more prescriptive we are in this bylaw, the easier it is to enforce. So I think the more language is, the more prescriptive it is, the easier it is for our staff to enforce it, get some teeth behind it. So yeah, I support this, and I support Councillor Rich's idea to add electric fence in there specifically. I think would help, you know, for hens and bees, and yeah. This is my comments.
Councillor Beach.
Yeah, through the chair, I guess I'm thinking of situations where having an electric fence on a farm, whether it be a hobby farm or anywhere where you're keeping small numbers of vulnerable animals and children. I would like people to understand that you need to have complete closure coverage of those animals, and maybe understand that if an electric hot wire fence is not something that you want to consider, that there should be an option. So I'd like to see the fencing, but I'd also like to make sure that they understand there's an alternate way to achieve full protection of your stock. Just something, just trying to think of where it could be a problem. Other than that, I really support the detail, and I echo the fact that, you know, this is an education. This is to force people to really start to think about how they protect and dispose of things that would attract wildlife, and this definitely does that. So it does educate.
Councillor Rich.
And through the chair, and this all started in the spring. And Terry, who is head of our area, and then Eric, who works at a salmon arm and regulates Sicamous, reached out to me because Sicamous was having problems. So there are a lot of issues, and just like you know, we talked a lot about having secured bear dumpsters in stratas. There was a continuous problem with bears in a specific strata within Sicamous, where children are running into garbage, people are keeping garbage on the back, things are everywhere. They're being called 5, 6, and they reached out to me and said, we can't manage this. We need you guys to put something in to help us. Because and they work from Penticton all the way out past Malacqua, and they have 3 officers. And they actually reached out to me and said, hey, you know, this garbage issue. And so when you have trailer parks and stratas and those kind of things, said these folks need to manage their garbage. And there's a lot of garbage, and the bears come, and the bears, you know, the bears aren't trying to be dangerous, but if you run into a bear, they can be dangerous. And again, the bears end up dead. So we don't want dead bears, and we want to manage our wildlife, but when we leave attractants in. So we were actually asked as a town to start managing, like letting people know, and absolutely through education. Sicamous has always been complaint-based. So it's not like we're going to be driving around, looking in everybody's yard, seeing if they have a chicken and if they've got proper stuff. But if there's a bear coming in, and the CO goes and he says to us, hey, these guys aren't set up properly, that we can go and then say, here's a way to get your setup done so that your chickens are safe and you're not bringing wildlife into your neighbor's yards, right? Let alone your own. So that's just kind of, but this actually was CO driven.
Thanks, Councillor Rich. Councillor Evans.
I'm good, thanks.
Sarah.
Through the chair, so on the prohibitions and the suggestions from Councillor Rich, so the one was regarding hot wire fencing with hens, backyard hens and bees, and then the other was concerning stratas and bear-proof containers. I'm wondering if the committee would be okay if we, you know, take this away and then have further discussions with the conservation officers, and then when we come back for the bylaw reading, that we would incorporate what they're suggesting, or do you want to make a decision now Just, I'm thinking like, you know, if we look at wildlife enclosures, adding that definition, and then also just the enclosures as well, we could further define that so that it pertains to stratas or any property that would maybe have a shared garbage enclosure.
So Sarah, I like that idea of just taking it back and having a conversation. For me too, I mean, I'm looking at, to Pam's point, the electric fence. I was a kid that got hooked up on an electric barbed wire fence, so I have nightmares still, so sorry, but I mean, it's frightening. And yes, I think something protective is a good idea. Failure to keep barbecue equipment and tools clean and free. So if a bear shows up on my deck, is bylaw gonna show up and say your barbecue's not clean enough? Like there's some things in here are just digging a little bit too deep, I feel. And some of them are overlapping with what we're already doing. And although we don't have an issue right now with bylaw, we are creating one, I think, giving, all of these, given all of these are prohibitions to, I don't know, it just seems like a lot. Councillor Evans?
I agree with you, but to echo what Councillor McCabe said, if we want people to shape up and learn stuff, I think we have to go over the top. It's kind of like my friend who was the teacher, and she said in September, you start really strict, and then you're not going to be Hitler about it and Nazis about it when it comes to managing people, but you have to set the bar high so that the people will actually make some decisions to the way they think. So,
Councillor Rich?
Through the chair. Also, Eric and Terry said they would be more than happy to come in. So maybe we reach out to them and they can come in and, like, I know I've had lots of conversations with them, but maybe they can come to council and we can talk about, but again, it's not like we're gonna have bylaw checking everybody's barbecue. But if we have a problem bear in an area and we know that that bear is there and being a problem, that we then can go to people and say, you know what, you gotta keep it clean. And we do have this bylaw that if you don't do it, you're attracting the bear and we're gonna have to kill the bear. So we're not checking barbecues. But what we are doing is giving our bylaw, because right now we don't have anything to back the seals. But I would really suggest that maybe Eric has told me that he'll come out. He's back today, actually. And he would be more than happy to come and do a presentation for council. And just so we also get it right, so we're not amending this, that it works for our community and we're not being over strict, but that we're being progressive. And I know Sarah has gotten, I think I've sent you about 26 different towns. And there's some that work really, really well. And we're being progressive. We're actually saving bears' lives and raccoons' lives and not having as many rat problems.
Thank you.
So,
Councillor Bailey, and sorry, back to you, sir.
Yeah, no, I agree with the mayor. I just think if we're gonna, I think it would be helpful to have a little bit more examination on it. Certainly when we start getting into bear-proof waste containers, that's a totally different thing. It'll also be something that I'd want to go and have a discussion with all the stratas and have some sort of consultation on it, because it's a totally different container. It's a totally different approach. It is also, there's a cost there for sure. So, and then, around being prescriptive, my personal preference when it comes to the bylaw side and basically almost everything in government is that you get compliance through education. There's no way that you can actually go ahead and prescriptively enforce very, very specific rules. You just don't have the manpower. So really what, at the end of the day, we're relying on people to go, hey, I want to do the right thing. Apart from that, you don't have a lot of tools in the toolbox unless you actually want to hire exponential amount of bylaw officers. So, I think this does give us an opportunity to start talking about it and say, hey, there is a bylaw. But I agree with what Sarah said, that the major driving point here will be the education part. And I think that's where the focus should be rather than getting too prescriptive. It's gonna be the education piece that will drive the results more than anything else, in my opinion.
Thanks, Councillor Lee. Sarah, go ahead.
So taking in everything that's being said here, I think it would be wise to maybe invite Terry and Eric, the conservation officers, to attend a future meeting. And we can have a further discussion about the draft bylaw. I had asked for some numbers for this year based on, wildlife presence in Sicamous, because we've noticed just doing social media posts, seems to be an increased number of bears in the community. But they hadn't gotten back to me in time for this presentation. So we can proceed with that and then gain some further input on those matters around bees and hens and stratas and those shared garbage containers and what that looks like, and maybe reach out to the stratas as well. And consultation. The next discussion item was just around exemptions, and if there was a desire to include the exemptions, it was brought to the attention that maybe farm properties might have a harder time complying. So that was one discussion item, and then the other was fines. Are you happy with the fines that are being proposed? But if we're going to have further discussion, we could address that.
So I think having said that, do we want to vote on this resolution or pause it, table it? What would you like us to do? Council, do you want to table this for now?
This is just a recommendation.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
resolution.
Sorry, it is a recommendation, but we've got to figure out if we're going to move forward with it.
Well, the recommendation is direct staff. So we're going to do anyhow, so.
Yeah.
Good way it stands.
Through the chair,
Like council, at the next regular council, I don't know. Yeah, it's yours. I don't know.
I look forward to the next council meeting, so
Yeah.
I think it's fine to just, if you guys are open to making a motion to postpone.
So do you want us to,
Or you can,
we want us to amend this recommendation
yeah,
to postpone? Is that what,
postpone. Our CEO is saying,
just postpone it? So just postpone the recommendation.
Okay.
okay,
Do we need a first and seconder on that?
I'll-
Councillor Bailey? Councillor Rich, all in favor? Carried.
we'll reach out for that delegation. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, the council meeting, Councillor McCabe and Councillor Rich are going to report on the council meeting on August the 12th. Are there any minutes from that to share?
Where's that? Oh, yep, I think that would make.
No? Go ahead, Councillor McCabe.
Sorry. I think we should move this to the in-camera session.
Do you want to? There's sorry, through the chair, so under the section 90 of the charter, there's real no reason to go in camera to discuss. We don't include the minutes, like the minutes of the council to council, but you're welcome to discuss, provide a summary of the meeting topics that were
Okay.
looked at, unless there's any concern from our CAO.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, absolutely. Sarah's correct. We just feel or felt that it would be good to have you discuss this.
The open.
Right.
That's good.
And the minutes, sorry, Aaron, if I may, just the minutes haven't been shared. We haven't heard back from representatives of Splatchin as to, the accurate reflection of that meeting. So it was impossible for us to share it.
Councillor McCabe, Jennifer.
Okay, well, that's fine if that's the will of council, so I could suggest that, I've made some notes and I could highlight my notes and then Councillor Rich walk through her notes.
Go
Is that
ahead.
okay? Is that-
Go ahead.
Okay. So it was held on August 12th. Discussion items, meeting schedule. It was suggested by both parties Counselor Rich and myself and the two counselors from Splatson that we have quarterly reports, was it? Four meetings a year. And so that was felt appropriate on their part. So that's something we'll bring to council. This means that we have 4 meetings a year with council to council. That's one sort of action item. Indigenous Day, People Day and the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation was the second agenda item. Reconciliation was on June 28th and September 30th. We asked how Sicamous support the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And they suggested just instead of us doing something here, whoever from council or community wants can come join folks in the Enderby and order some t-shirts maybe to recognize truth and reconciliation. And then they do a bit of a walk. So join them in a walk and wear some t-shirts. So maybe we could ask staff to look into ordering some t-shirts, whoever wants t-shirts.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Through the chair, staff just has an update on that. So yesterday there was a meeting at the Teaching Society regarding the Orange Shirt Day event, and Jamie Sherlock, our recreation programmer, attended. And so we had some discussions, and we actually have an invitation for mayor and council to attend that event. So the walk and the ceremony, and also they're looking for volunteers if anyone's interested in potentially a donation for the event, but our rec programmer is working with the organizers and seeing how we can provide more support.
Okay, great. So that's September 30th, that event. And C, protocol agreement. We just suggested that it's 2014 since the last sign. And were they in agreement with revisiting it, see if there's any language they want changed. So we left them with a copy because they have a new council and they weren't sure if they had access to those copies, 2014 an old document. And they're going to take that to their council, the full council, and review it and come back with suggestions of any changes. Councilor Rich, just correct me if I'm wrong anywhere, anything, please. The Shuswap Schwepp in brackets Shokwepa Healing Center naming. They felt they had authority to speak on behalf of their full council, that they felt that they didn't want to use the word Shuswap in there at all, or Chequepnik, because it's has a wrong connotation that it's part of the nation, and it's really not. Their suggestion was to use the Chequepnik word for Sicamous. I don't know the proper spelling, but I think it's well, it's right on here.
It's an E.
It's SEK with apostrophe EMAWS. That's how they spell it. So they suggested to call it the Sicamous Community Health Center, I believe. And but for sure they wanted to drop the word healing as a given. And so we're going to bring back to council that we suggest Sicamous, or how we're pronounced, Community Health Center. So that's up for an action item to discuss. And D, consultation water treatment plant. They'll just direct their staff to contact our staff to have some input with that. So it's just a staff to staff thing. Oh, in a Schweppik Healing Center also about artwork and colors and finishing material. They didn't really have any input on that. They said they would go back to their full council. I think staff might be doing that at the staff level.
Through the chair, a meeting has been set for September 5th, I believe, with the council members under the health and wellness portfolio, and then those appointed from Splatching. So Miranda Councilor Miranda Kim Basket and Councilor Edna Felix will be in attendance, as well as Karen Eastland, the health center manager.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we just told them that our water treatment center needed more capacity, or our wastewater treatment center needed more capacity, and that Stan Tech was our technician, and that their staff would get a hold of our staff.
Speak up, please.
Sorry.
Can't hear you at all.
Our water treatment center needs more capacity, and so to involve First Nations Splats, and with that, our staff will just get in contact with their technical staff regarding that. There's a thing called Nations Connect Notice. That's where if we want to invite Splats and to do anything, there's a process to go through to do that. Nations Connect Notice. Are you familiar with that, Sarah?
Through the chair, it's a third-party referral program, so development services would use that if they're sending out referrals to Spletching. It goes through Nations Connect, or operations would do that in relation to the wastewater treatment plant, which I think has occurred.
That's correct. Okay, thank you. And then F, Sicamous Narrows Active Transportation Crossing and Shuswap North Okanagan Rail Trail. I guess they haven't had a chance to look at the study that's been completed. And we asked for a support letter for a crossing at the end of Main Street, specific for that. And they said that they need a chance to look at the study and possibly do some archaeological impact assessments on both sides of the channel. There might be archaeological impact assessments, and possibly see how it impacts the notice of intent for the water. Notice of intent for the water regulation.
Nation of interest.
Oh, notice of interest. Thank you. Notice of interest, the water. So there's a few things that they want to look at. They want to get a chance to look at the study and see if they have to do just a desktop archaeological impact assessment or actually a field investigation for archaeological impact assessment before they would be forwarding a letter of support for that. Sorry, I didn't speak up again. Sorry. We're looking for letter of support from Splats and for the pedestrian bridge at the end of Main Street. And there's a couple conditions that we have to meet before they can give us that support. Sicamous Narrows Cumulative Effects Study, notation of interest. We'll find out more in 2025 about that. So that was just left at that. And then the boathouse was thrown in there as a late item. And we just told them we're in the concept stage of that. We did mention Old Town Bay was suggested, but I think we're further down the road there on a location at our public dock at the end of Main Street. Councillor Rich, anything to add to any of that?
Through the chair, no, I think the first thing I would say was it was a really good meeting. Great people, a lot of information. Everybody was very happy to sit together and very appreciated. So they did say the cumulative study will be finished fall 2025. So we should actually get some answers for that. So that's pretty cool. And that was through Michael, the Rights and Titles guy. So they did have someone on that has that information. And I think that Mel kind of covered everything else, Councilor McCabe. The only thing that I will say that we did talk about Orange Shirt Day. They did talk about maybe when the health center is up and running that we do start doing something here. I have been in contact with both schools and Deanne from Splatsing. She makes the t-shirts, and any t-shirts, any profit on them actually goes to a memorial that they're building. So I will be reaching out to her with the schools, and I'm actively right now actually looking for funding so that we can get, last year we had 10 t-shirts for our 400 students. So it's something that I'm working with both PACs, school's just starting up this week. And may be looking to council and Splat Scene that we can maybe supply some more t-shirts to our kids. They will be September 26th in Sicamous because that's school day. But again, doing a big promotion to get people from Sicamous out on the 30th to Enderby. And I think Mel covered everything else.
Go ahead.
So I think the only real timely action item out of that would be to discuss the name of the healing center, because as we move forward, you know, we have to get signs made up and stuff, and it's getting built.
So, yeah, and thank you. And to that point, it's my list, and perhaps I do like community health center. So perhaps it is Sicamous and Sicamous. Perhaps there's both of them on the building as opposed to just one or the other. And I think I don't know how council feels. I think that I would be good with that. Sarah?
Just with the traditional name of Sicamous, Sicamous, and I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but the translation in Secwepemichan is waste, and it's because it's where the two waters meet. So the middle, so waste.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
can I throw it to the council for discussion? Is that name okay?
Which name? The one that you just.
Sicamous Community Health Center.
Go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
No, I'd like, the mayor's suggestion was to have both in it, because we need to have something that obviously resonates with our community and then theirs. So, I mean, we combine both of them and then call it a community health. I have no problem with community health center, but I think it should be Sicamous, and I don't want to pronounce it because I'll butcher it, but yeah.
Just a quick question to you and Siobhan. What do they call their community health care center? Like they have one, is there one in Enderby? Do they have one in Enderby? What do they, go ahead, Gord.
Community Health Center in Enderby. Yes, there's a sign on the road, Community Health Center.
Yeah,
So there's, yeah, okay, go ahead.
it's more of a referral center, really. You go there and you get referred to wherever you need to get referred to, as opposed to
A doc, seeing a doc.
yeah.
Councillor Evans and Councillor Rich.
I like the idea of calling it the Second House Community Health Center. It's spelled the way it is on a roundabout sign. It's not hard to say after you practice it a couple times. I heard the chief mention, I think it's the correct way to say Sicamous, so I think that's what it should be called. That's my opinion.
Councillor Rich.
Through the chair. Yeah, I really like the Sicamous and then Community Health Center. And if we had in brackets Sicamous or, you know, in translation or something like that, so we know what it, you know, if people are asking, but this is funded by our First Nations, by our Splat Scenes. And, you know, we're working on truth and reconciliation. And I think it's really big that we put that honor out there. And I think they were really open to the change. And that was the suggestion by Kupti. So I really support moving forward with that.
Councillor McCabe, Councillor Bailey, Councillor Beach.
My suggestion to both, like Councillor Bailey said, I agree with that 100%. Both the Schrebic name of Sicamous and our European name, if you want to refer to that.
Same as on our roundabout. It's exactly the same thing we did on our roundabout. So both are recognized.
Yes.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I feel strongly that because we are putting quite a bit of resources behind this, and you know, we want it to resonate for both, and I do support having both on it. And I think that's a fair approach.
Absolutely. Our taxpayers make up that difference. So definitely need some recognition there as well as the District of Sicamous has taken it on and is running it. So I'm feeling pretty strong about both of those as well. Councillor Beach.
I like them both, but if we've got the roundabout is named that way, then I like the consistency. Of having Sicamous, having both of the names listed.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion that we name our new Shuswap Healing Center, Sicamous. And we can have artist renditions come back to council and show which names first or which name might be in brackets, but the intent is to use both names and a community health center as our new name.
I'll second that. Sarah, go ahead.
Through the chair, so just bringing up, and it's for you guys to consider, we have the Sicamous Community Health Center, which is the medical clinic, and then we're gonna have the Sicamous Community Health Center as the building.
Well, they'll transition, they're not gonna be both running at the same time.
But this is the building's name, and then we have the Sicamous Community Health Center, which is our medical clinic, so that could be, I'm gonna say it, so that might be confusing.
So what you're suggesting is two names, one that names the building and one that names the clinic?
That's what this is. This is naming the building. The clinic already has a name, the Sicamous Community Health Center.
Corporation?
That already exists. And so it's just for consideration. I don't think today we needed to, it's up to you guys, but no decision has to be made now, but it's something to consider, that there could be some confusion.
Yeah. Yes, of course you can.
I think that what you're discussing is the naming of the building,
Yeah.
which is the entire facility, includes the traditional healing center. It's got the clinic. Yeah.
So,
And as far as the existing building is in place, that'll be different. That'll be.
go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I'd like the motion that Councillor McCabe put forward. I think this can be the name of the building, and then the actual clinic is fine. But, to have both names in the building, I think is very appropriate.
Okay, let's call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I do have a couple more quick questions because time is here. So can just quarterly meetings are what they're asking for, which is fine. And can you tell me like who showed up? Just the four of you, or I see here Chief, I hear Michael, I hear, so just so we're on a level playing field moving forward. Go ahead, Councillor Rich.
Through the chair, I don't know, Sarah, do you want to, so, yeah, you name who was in the room.
Yeah, through the chair. So the representatives on council, they weren't able to attend, but they did have other council members attend. And there was also a staff member from Title and Rights, and Cookpee attended. And we had that discussion around, we had assumed that it would just be the two council members and maybe one member from staff. But the assumption from Sletcheen is that, yes, there's council to council representatives, but if there's discussion matters on the agenda that fall within the portfolio of another council member, they would include them. And the staff member was there to provide background and provide information. And so it was just a misunderstanding, and not a misunderstanding, but we got that clarity, and moving forward, what the takeaway was that we present an agenda and that we confirm who will all be attending prior to the meeting. And so that would go for Sicamous as well, council, because there may be portfolio areas that concern agenda items.
Sure. So I guess my question to you, Sarah, is Cookie Christian, is he going to be attending each meeting? Like, is he going to chair each meeting? Because I mean, on a level playing field, then I would like to be sitting at that table as well as Mayor of Sicamous.
Through the chair. Yeah, I don't think that was the intention, but what we came away from it was that who's attending would be confirmed prior to.
Okay.
And we have dates set up for October, April, July, and October, and they're on a Monday. So our council, the council rep said the two dates proposed for each month are okay. So we're just waiting to hear back, get that solidified. And then when the agendas get produced, that they would go out to all of the councils. And then, of course, the two representatives from each council would attend, and perhaps others if they feel that it involves their portfolio.
Okay.
But we would determine that prior to meeting.
Councillor McCabe, Councillor Rich.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We spent about 15 minutes trying to figure out who's at the table and how who's talking to who and who represents who. Spent about 20 minutes before we got into the actual agenda. So, yeah. And there was a little miscommunication there, but our last meeting was October 20th of 2023. So we hadn't had a meeting for a long time.
It'll probably be just a little bit,
Yeah, so I don't think QP's gonna be there attending all the time, and he wasn't trying to overbalance our table. And there was a lot of people that were accessed by, not a lot, there was a few technical people, resource people that were just accessed by Zoom when that agenda item came up. And like Sarah said, if there's an agenda item that involves all of council, then they would do that also.
Yeah.
So it's fluid.
Okay, no, that sounds good. Counselor Rich.
Through the chair. It was a really good meeting and it was very well balanced and it was, I think, very, very respectful. And one of the other things that came up was like they had Michael, their rights and titles person online. But if we were gonna get deep into the sewer, then maybe Daryl's invited that day, right? Because he's our expert. So they, you know, that we could bring our expert, they bring our expert, and then instead of counselors trying to learn the basis of sewer, we can absolutely do that. So, yeah, I think
Absolutely.
it's super fluid and, but they're very open and I think it was really good that they've committed to 4 meetings. I think we're gonna get a lot of work done this year.
I think that is awesome as well, and I understand the process, so folks, and I'm not gonna repeat it because explained it really well. And yes, I just want to make sure that we're all communicating at the same level with the same expectations and goals going in, so that was just my point of looking forward to being part of it or looking forward to stepping back, whatever is required in making council meetings work.
So the intent, the next meeting is in October sometime, start the quarters.
Through the chair, it's interesting because just as we've been talking, I got confirmation from Allison Lalire, who's their executive secretary. So it looks like we're October 21st will be the next one.
Councillor Bailey?
I think to your point that it would be nice prior to these meetings that we have a discussion as council. And then kind of highlight some of the areas we wanted to cover and some of the things that are on our mind. So then everybody around the table is aligned and yeah, I think that's, since now that it's set up on a little bit more timely schedule, then I think we could do that.
For sure. That's a really good idea. And just to the point of the boathouse, I'm so far along already. The boathouse was a conversation about Old Town Bay Marina, but because of the tracks, because of the walking distance, because of the public out there on a regular basis, it just, and the winds and the storms for that boathouse, it just wasn't a great space. That's why we went to our tenure, the end of Main Street, which has been, the boathouse will be moved into our tenure. There's still 12 or 13 spaces, slips out there. So we've already been through the process we're just waiting for some approvals. Yeah. Okay. All right, what's next on the hit list here? Okay, Mayor and Council reports. Let's start, Councillor Evans.
Thank you. I worked with the library regarding staff, our staff here and the CEO of the library's performance review. I had a meeting a couple weeks ago on that. I want to thank council for the grace of missing the August 12th meeting. Go down and be with my sick dad. He's getting surgery today, so that's good. And it should solve the problem. So thanks for that. And I wish I could have been here, but other than that, I'm looking forward to fall and getting back into the saddle. I was looking forward to the meeting today. I'm glad I could be here.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Rich.
Through the chair, I had a housing meeting and that was very successful. We got some good stuff coming down and you guys will hear about that later. And listened in on planning and stopped by and after that had a meeting here with Carol again. So yeah, just busy doing regular stuff and also looking forward to fall.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Rich. Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, Daryl and I had a meeting in regards to a developer in town that wants to look at a few properties, Mr. Yarmaloy. So yeah, we had a good meeting upstairs with that. Chaired the Planning and Development Committee meeting. We had a new developer who is interested in developing the west side. So that was kind of cool to see what his thoughts were. It's pretty technical development. That was pretty interesting. We had a resident that has lakefront property that was concerned about he wants to do a rebuild on his cabin, so Nicole looked after him, is looking after him. And yeah, we had some interesting, we had a new proposal on 1002 Seafront Road, which is very interesting. It's coming forth. Councillor Bailey chaired that part session of the meeting. And yeah, that's about it. It was a good, busy week, couple weeks, few developer calls, but other than that, everything's good.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, just planning and development since we're running quick on time.
Councillor
Yeah, so attended the planning meeting, also sat through a climate futures meeting this morning before this meeting. And have plans to get together for safety committee meetings with Councillor Rich. And also with the chamber, with Sheila DeVos next week. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe.
Same as Councillor Rich, Housing Committee, some recommendations coming forward to council on that. And yeah, met with Splatson. We already discussed all that.
Perfect, thank you. I'll try to be as quick as I can, but there's been some MOTI stuff that's come up since the incident on the bridge, so I just wanted to share that with you because I just got it. But first of all, the truck incident, our deepest condolences to the family of Ram Singh. It's an unfortunate tragedy, and I just want to thank the RCMP, the fire, Lorenzo Murray, the SEP staff. CSRD staff, everyone pulled together very quickly and worked together, collaborate. Their collaboration was wonderful. Their communication was wonderful. You always knew basically what was going on. And I think they did a wonderful job of how quickly this has rolled out. MOE is still doing some testing to see when we can open the beach park up again. So that was, yeah. A bad weekend for Sicamous, but moving forward, I'm going to quickly go over some of the things that MOI sent, just really quick, so that because a lot of the questions that I've been asked by the media is, how's this going to impact the bridge? What does this look like? Is it going to cancel it? Is it going to speed it up? Like, what's going to happen now? So I'd like to this is from Micah, our new project manager. I'd like to offer the following updates on the RW Broom Bridge project and improvement works plan for Highway 97 A and B. First, I'd like to express our condolences to the community as they deal with tragic events of the past week, and there will be no changes to the contract or our planned works due to this incident. The project was tendered on June the 3rd, 2024 and closed on August 13th, 2024. 7 contractors were pre-qualified through an RFQ process that was undertaken to increase the likelihood of an experienced and skilled contractor being the successful bidder. Of the 7 contractors that were pre-qualified and invited to bid on the tender, 6 put forward a bid. The ministry verified bids and requested approval to award. Award and announcements of the successful builder will be forthcoming later this week or early next week. Once the contractor is finalized and required submissions are in place, the contractor is anticipated to start in fall 2024 with project completion by late 2027. Project improvements include replacing the Bruin Bridge, of course, 4-laning approximately 1.9 kilometers between existing Old Sicamous Road intersection and Silver Sands Road, improving Highway 97A/B in advance of project construction. Project benefits include improved safety traffic flow along Trans-Canada Highway, improved safety of local road connections at the Trans-Canada Highway 1, enhanced safety for pedestrians and cyclists along the existing Trans-Canada Highway corridor. Traffic impacts, intermittent road closures of Highway 1 will be required to facilitate new bridge construction. Planned closures will be restricted prior to October 31st. So just to clarify, there will be no closures before October 31st. They will go after November 1st. That's when they'll start the closures. When a closure is in place, all travel between Sicamous and Salmon Arm will use Highway 97 and Highway 97B, A and B, as alternate routes. Highway 1 will be closed for the eastern limit, from the eastern limit to Highway 1 rest area west of the Broom Bridge. And improvements on Highway 97 A and B include asphalt resurfacing from Grinrod to Sicamous. The contract awarded to Okanagan Aggregates Limited, projects to start September the 9th, 2024. Anticipated completion by October 31st. That's why the changes will be, they won't alternate traffic until November the 1st. Signal installation junction Highway 97 A and B. Signal will be installed by Cobra Electric. Project start to be confirmed. Anticipated completion October 31st. Mirror Lake retaining wall improvement south of Swansea Point. Project start to be confirmed. Anticipated completion by August 31st. So those are hot off the press. I will share those with Sarah and perhaps we can post or it is kind of public knowledge and it's more information and contractors awarded, right? I'd also like to send out a thank you to Major Crimes and the Sicamous RCMP for the arrest in the Servio murder. That was good news for our community. And we've got the pump track event coming up. And BC Games Triathlon is September 11th. And for the BC Games, the hockey series at the rec center will be on September the 14th. So that's all exciting and fun news. Okay, that's it for me. We have gallery. Any questions? Go ahead, Deb.
Just a couple of quick things. So I got my coffee presentation done, so I'll be running around now, madly putting that up. And I think I mentioned to you guys last time, we were doing it in conjunction with Doty's Art for Everyone Anniversary Art Show and a Harvest Festival that's being arranged by a group of volunteers too. So we're getting on that. This week, I'm going to be submitting a showcase entry for Communities in Bloom on our whole theme of activating our spaces in town. Farmers Market, there's 4 more. Colleen caught me rolling my eyes when you guys were talking about some of the animals. And I just want to say why I was rolling my eyes was because I was thinking of things that meant more work for me. Something to maybe consider when you're thinking about some of the animal deterrent. A while back, I started something called a harvest registry, and I handed it off to Vicki Alfred, and she's asked to have it passed on. But we've got, as an example, so many fruit trees in town. And so the idea would be, I've talked to them about this before, you've got pickers, you've got people with trees, the people pick, they get a third, it gets a third, the owner gets a third. We could also, if it goes beyond that, get into animal feed and collection and kind of, so I would see it as being kind of a volunteer sort of thing, but if the district was to help in terms of some of the communication and that, maybe there's some opportunities to get the residents a lot more engaged in these sorts of activities that rather than a bylaw thing, you know, in conjunction with the bylaw thing, but get the residents engaged in terms of these, taking away the attractants of these.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so anyone online that, no? Okay, so we are going to adjourn the community of the whole meeting 3:20. Can I get a mover? Councillor Evans, Councillor Bushell, all in favor? We are adjourned.